Hey guys, today is going to be a slightly different video than what I usually watch. However, it's kind of in the same, or well, it looks like it's going to be in the same kind of feel or vibe that is in Memoirs of World War II, in which this is Old Soldier meets Young Soldier, The Gap by LADBible. Now, why am I watching this is because what these two have experienced in their lives on the front lines is history. When soldiers are placed somewhere, wherever they go, if they are seeing combat, they are most likely, or they are definitely experiencing, if they're not in their own country, if they are overseas, they are experiencing another country's history. They are playing a part in, I guess, what could be the country's future, depending on the side. Now, when I was taking a look at this video, very brief, there was the beginning of the clip is, I believe, the younger soldier mentions Kosovo. So that would be the 90s. And that in of itself, the fighting that took place in the 90s around Kosovo and the Balkans during that time period is certainly history. Very important history, especially for that region, as that sets up kind of what is the current, I guess, geopolitical area there, right? That's what is happening now in that region is kind of as a direct result of the wars being fought in the 90s between the Balkan countries. I don't know much about them, however, I just want to I really just want to watch the video and react to it for you guys. And so I'm trying to justify it as a historian. Instead of just having this be a regular reaction kind of video, right? Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get started. One thing I'm kind of curious about. Older soldiers, one of the differences that I think can be seen, older soldiers didn't really get moved around too much. Specifically if they fought in like World War II or Korea or Nam. Those would be their deployments. They wouldn't really go to any other countries. Now, American soldiers, on the other hand, do typically, for the past 40 or so years, do typically get to see multiple countries because of the presence of U.S. bases across the world. I don't know if these are British soldiers or not. I'm going to guess they are, just because of the look of the older gentleman here. Doesn't give off American veteran vibes to me, and especially the younger man here doesn't really. I don't know. And just I think LADBible is British. I'm not sure. Anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling and we're just gonna start watching.
Iraq in 2006. We then deployed to Kosovo. From there,
yeah, that's British.
We then deployed to.
They're a bit quiet, so on my end, so I'm gonna have to put on closed captioning, and also.
Well, you've been through quite a lot, son, haven't you?
Hi,
Hello, young man.
Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Pleasure. How you been? You okay?
Not so bad. Yourself?
On the spot.
On the spot.
There's a stack of them here, isn't there?
All right.
Which war did you fight in?
Second World War.
95 years old. He looks good for being 95. He looks like he doesn't need too much assistance walking. Oh, not. He might use a cane or a walker. But, if I can walk fairly comfortably with a cane or a walker at 95, you're doing fucking good.
My flotilla was the third flotilla, and there was 12 of us, and we took part in the North African campaign, and then we went on to the invasion of Sicily.
How long were you away for?
2 years. In them days, with a different war, you had to go where you were sent, and some lads went to North Africa and went right through and never got home till way after D-Day.
Shit.
The other wars that followed this, it's an entirely different war than what ours was.
I think it goes through generations, doesn't it? It goes from one war to another.
That is. Now, obviously, I know, for you British viewers, I know y'all have multiple different accents inside your country. I don't know which accent this is. I'm assuming it's British, but it doesn't sound. I don't know. I think the older gentleman is British. The younger man, though, I'm not sure. I can't. English, the various English accents, I can't pick apart that well.
Frightening to see what happens to these modern wars. You're fighting an enemy you do not know where he is for the start. Like in our war, as long as you were going forward, you were going the right way. But
yeah,
in Afghanistan and that, he can come up behind you and you don't know he's there. And from my way of thinking, I wouldn't like to have fought in that war, I'll be honest with you.
See, that's where I think the two change, because I wouldn't like to fight in your war, because in my eyes, being on a ship,
it's probably safer on a ship. So I can't swim, so.
You can't swim? I thought you were a sailor.
And they never taught me. Where
Oh
would
my
you swim?
God. Oh. Oh gosh, I love this old man.
If you're a long way from home, don't matter whether you could swim or not.
After training, I got to battalion,
Uh-huh.
and then we deployed to Belize. Yeah. We went for 6 weeks in the jungle, training, and that was pre-training for Iraq. We deployed in Iraq to Iraq. In
Jungle training for Iraq?
Yeah, 2006. That was a 6-month tour, turned into a 7-month tour, and we were deployed to Saddam's palace in Basra South, where we patrolled and did strike ops. After there, we come back. I went on to do my promotion. We then deployed to Kosovo. That was peacekeeping. And then from there, we then deployed.
Okay, so he went to Kosovo after the 90s. He was there in 2008 or so, probably 2010-ish. So he was fairly young. He's in his 30s,
So
I'm
completely
guessing.
different operations altogether, from armoured to foot.
Well, you've been through quite a lot, son, haven't you? What are your feelings towards the enemy now in comparison to at the time? That's a good one, that.
At the time, I didn't. It's weird, because I'm going to probably stand out here, is I didn't have any hate for them. I believed that we were fighting in someone else's country and they were defending it in a way. But I think that's one of the other reasons why I left, because I didn't believe in it in the end.
Yeah, so shit, knock something up. Where I stand, for anyone curious, I guess, I don't know how many people really care about my opinion on this sort of thing. As you know, it's not entirely history related. This is more personal opinion on war. My personal opinion is, for the most part, if not maybe 99% of the conflicts and wars going on, at least as an American, from my point of view, I find them unjustified. Most of the wars that have been taking part in the last 50, 60 years. I find pretty much nearly all of them unjustified, in that American soldiers should not be getting sent in. However, just because I disagree with the wars does not mean that I do not respect those that are fighting in it. People... Now, certainly there will always be some bad eggs that slip through the cracks and want to get into the military because they want to shoot people. There are always going to be those, no matter what country you're in, no matter where you go, no matter what time period, there's always going to be those bad eggs. However, at least in America, many of them do it because they don't know what they want to do with their lives. Or there might be a military family, so it's tradition for them. They just see it as their duty, which on them, that your personal opinion. I'm not here to judge that. But for me, my family, I have a cousin that went into the military. He went in because he had no clue what he wanted to do, but he needed money, He needed a job. And the military, provided the pay for the time period that he served. And then when he was done, he kind of figured out, now he kind of knows what he wants to do. So, and then obviously, post 9/11, saw a bunch of people join in because of the attack, and they wanted to serve their country for patriotic reasons. But, yeah, what I'm saying is, I'm not one of those, I disagree with many wars. However, it does not mean that I do not respect those that fight in them, because it's another job that you got to do. And they're going into a line of combat. They're going into a job field in which you get shot at. I'm personally not brave enough to do that. I will admit it. I don't think I'm brave enough to do that. So, because I'm also not the best with blood. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not good with being around blood. So, it's not something I can do. So there's a certain level of respect there for those that can. Anyways, enough of that tangent. Let's get back to hearing about their experiences.
I think I fought that hard, and I was fighting an enemy so much that I was equal to them. If someone can get a number of men in front of me and fight me and my men to the extreme that they were fighting us, then hat off to them. What about yourself?
Well, we fought the Germans to win the war.
Yeah, he's gonna
That's
probably
what was bred into you. And it took me until about 1970 before I could really, see me way clear. I have nothing against them now. It took me all that time to realize they were the same as us, doing what they had to do.
Have you ever fired a weapon?
Yes, on the land.
It's interesting to hear that. I think that's something that you kind of see with World War II veterans. The propaganda that was at the time is that they wanted you to hate the enemy. Because, that was also what the Germans were bred for. They were manipulated into thinking that same thing to an even greater extreme than, I'd say, the Allied soldiers. Now, the Soviets, on the other hand, were certainly... They weren't just, bred by the government to hate the opposing side. The Germans did some atrocities that certainly fueled the hatred between the two countries. However, but I think it's certainly something that's interesting to hear about the differences between these two. Modern soldiers, for the most part, probably do not hate the enemy. They kind of understand that they can... It depends on the enemy. This young soldier experienced different enemies and stuff. But the old soldier fought Nazis. I don't know why I'm coughing. He fought Nazis, and I hate Nazis too. Now, obviously, not all Germans were Nazis, right? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that is most likely what he was kind of taught growing up and then becoming a soldier in the military during World War II. He was most likely taught a blanket, Germans are Nazis and stuff, right? You had to fight the Nazi, you got to fight the Hun or whatever.
Landing craft, I was an anti-aircraft gunner. We had 6 Oerlikons and a 12-pounder on her. So,
I have no idea what those mean.
I fired that many times through the war. It's a different thing. It's not like firing a rifle. No, like a soldier has to rely on a rifle, doesn't he? Like I had to rely on me anti-aircraft gun. Whenever you're in imminent danger, you're called to action stations. And if the planes come at you, then you have to fight back. And on the Orlican, you had a shield, which you look through the gap, so to speak. It always gave you that feeling that he couldn't hit you, which was a silly way of thinking, but it gave you a bit of feeling of comfort, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So
I
with
can
us,
see
we did
that.
rifles. We just rifles, and we had GPMGs, which was 7.62 belt fed, which that most of them.
Well, you'd be lost without your rifle or your gun, wouldn't you?
Mhm.
On the deck.
I like how they can. I love. This is what I love about these conversations between two people that are in like the same field, except they have just They have a generational gap between them. They had even despite the decades difference between these two soldiers, they still have. They can still get these certain bits of the conversation in which they have this understanding that maybe non-soldiers do not understand, but they themselves can understand and communicate well with one another because of their experiences and such. And I think that's so cool. And I love seeing it. And not just in like veteran fields, but also in like various other fields. It's interesting.
You would get hit by an IED, so you'd have someone from the front, right, left, they're coming from the top of the compound, and they basically just spraying you with rapid fire with 7.62. Once you got into the firefight, you could never tell what was going to happen, but you always knew it was going to be like a well-oiled machine. The way your SOPs kick into place, the way you know your lads would, they just knew because of the amount of training you did. You knew exactly what we were doing.
How do you think soldiers are viewed in society?
Ooh, this is
It all
interesting.
depends how the media portrays us.
Yeah.
Remember going back when we come back from Iraq, we landed in Teesside, and we had groups of people that weren't happy that we were there, and they were British people, because the media portrayed us as killers, as murderers. Flipping the coin, when we come back from Afghan, we were portrayed as heroes, so the whole country rejoiced to go, oh, save our heroes. Obviously, your generation, you were
Well,
classed as
I
heroes.
think the war had lasted so long with that they were glad to see the people back home. And I think most soldiers and sailors, any serviceman, was looked upon, they say thank you to them for getting their freedom in one way. They were glad to see the war over. I can understand the difference now, because it's a different generation, and but
It's a different war, isn't it?
well, you find it, I know.
When you're in a war zone, and as you know, you've got that constant stress above your head of what's next, and you're constantly on high alert, and you're constantly irate. It only takes one person to look at you, and you're ready to fight straight away. Hence why when soldiers come back home, someone looks at you the wrong way, you're already in fight mode. It's been 12 years, I'm still in fight mode now. I don't think I'll ever change.
Yeah, that's one thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear about the older soldiers' view on that soon. But with young soldiers, you can certainly see that with the modern soldiers that have seen combat when they return home, because that's what they were trained to do, right? That's their training. That's that's what they get whipped into shape for. That's what gets like just dumped into their minds to do, to react. Because if you don't react that way in the combat field, you could most likely get your buddies to your left and to your right, behind you, etc., killed, and you could get yourself killed in the war field, in the battlefield, if you don't have that instinct, right? So it's, and then of course when you see combat and you see people dying around you, I'm certain coming back home, it's hard to, well, for one, forget that, and then to try and get that mindset out of you, because maybe subconsciously you're still thinking like, if I didn't have my guard up back in Afghanistan or something, I would not have saved my buddy or something like that. And so, there's certain subconscious things that I think need to be addressed and helped. I don't know what the answer is, but at least in America, our veterans are not provided as well as they should be. Like, I believe statistically, I did this research like 2 years ago now, Or 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago now? Holy shit. I think it might be 3 years ago now. No. In spring, it'll be 3 years since I did this paper. But it was a paper on homelessness in America. This was back when I was in community college. This was before I was doing, anyways. But I was doing a extensive research paper on homelessness in America in regards to veterans. And what I found is that veterans are statistically twice as likely to become homeless than an average American, right? Like, I don't know, I think it was like, I can't remember the exact statistic, but it'd be like 14% of veterans are homeless, and then like 7% of total Americans, 7% of average Americans are homeless, right? So like that's a huge, that's like double the percentage, right? Now, of course, my stats are probably wrong because it's been so long since I looked at this paper, and these numbers certainly could have changed over the last couple of years. Hopefully, these numbers have gone down. But yeah, definitely need to provide better services. At least I know for a fact need to provide better services in America to aid that transitional period. But instead, we just put more money into the military's budget instead of putting more money into the veteran VA or into services that would help veterans. Just my personal opinion.
The war, it's him or us, so to speak, and that's my way of thinking.
Yeah.
And so let it be.
That's it. But when I was out there, it was my lads. My lads are coming home, no matter what. I don't care who you are. My lads are coming home.
Have you ever lost a member of your company?
Oh, this is gonna be a hard one.
It's yeah. I want to answer it, but I don't at the same time because we've lost quite a lot of lads from our battalion, of our regiment. I'll say regiment because it's 1 RGJ and 2 RGJ. Today is the 10th anniversary for a lad we lost called Paul McAleese. He was my screw. We lost him 10 years today.
God. I can remember the exact day.
Yeah. I think I'll leave it there. Like, don't want to go too much into it. Like.
Yeah. Damn.
Have you ever suffered a serious injury?
I've only had a backflash from the gun, which sometimes with an Orlican, after it gets hot, thing sort of blows and you get a flash, but nothing serious.
Apart from like a few broken like sprains and broken wrists and stuff like that, and major one would be probably mentally. And this is, as you know, it's a massive epidemic that's going through the military at the moment for veterans and for still serving, is mental health. The past 13 years, I've really suffered, like really suffered. But I've sort of like battered it backwards and kept moving forward, you know what I mean? Always kept moving forward. And I think with my age now, I've got to the age where it's like, well, I've got my family and all that. It's like, I've got to stay straight, you know what I mean? But it creeps back a lot. It does creep back a lot. I think having my daughter is kicking up the arse quite hard, like, you know what I mean? But I think if it didn't, I'd probably still be like that, you know what I mean? It's, but I know
family can really help a lot.
A lot of soldiers are suffering. Do you miss the forces?
Oof, that's a good question. No, I don't think I missed it. I was away about 4.5 years. I served.
Damn.
And I was glad to get out.
Yeah, that's another thing that I think is different. Soldiers that served in World War II, they didn't really get much leave, if any at all, when they served. They would serve and they would most likely stay through the war. Now, they would have periods of, I guess, relaxation, like, if you're fighting in the Pacific, maybe you'd get sent to New Zealand or Australia or something for a brief spot of relaxation to recuperate the troops, and then you'd sent off to the next Japanese occupied island to fight. I'm not sure what it was like in Europe. Maybe after the liberation of Paris, it changed to where more troops were able to start getting sent behind the front lines to where they can get a little bit of rest and relaxation for a little bit before being sent on to the next offensive against the Germans. I'm not a World War II historian, so I'm not entirely certain. But yeah, but as of today, troops will they won't serve most. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not think many, or even I think only a few, maybe, if any at all, will serve a whole 1 year term overseas. I think they serve like 6 months, maybe 8 months at the max, and then they're sent back home for like a month or two of rest or something. I'm not sure. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. I want to be more informed on this kind of thing, because it is a modern dilemma that affects our troops, and kind of hearing their deployment cycle can kind of be a little bit beneficial in understanding what they're going through.
And no, that's my answer to that. I don't know about yourself.
No. A lot of the lads, their issue with it, they say, oh yeah, I missed the army, I wish I'd go back. I think what it is regimented. They're regimented in such a routine, where that is your life, and you do that for 3 to 7 to 22 years. Well, I left, and it was like, oh, I'm struggling here. But it was because it was the unknown. I don't miss it. I miss the lads, and
the camaraderie.
Yeah, I miss that.
That's about the only thing you miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong, I miss firefights, believe it or not. I miss getting to firefights. I miss
the adrenaline.
I miss teaching it, but that can be replaced by anything. You know what I mean? If you find another passion, another love in life, you replace it with that. You know what I mean? Is there anything you regret about your service?
Not really. Through the years, I am proud to have been a part of it. It took all my youth. If I hadn't have been there, I'd have missed quite a lot. And no, I don't regret it one bit.
I don't think I regret it, because it's like I said, it's what I've gained from it. I mean, mentally, it's been mentally draining once I've got out, but at the same time, it's strengthening at the same time. So where something's suffering, someone else is strengthening. You know what I mean? So I'm becoming a better person.
Why you want to tell your story? From my point of view, it may be to help the younger generation. They don't know about your war. They don't know about my war. And by coming on this sort of thing, people watch it and they realise it's part of history. I would think so, or I hope so.
Thank you, old man. Thank you for helping me out, justifying my reaction.
I went into a dark place and I kept it to myself. And every time someone mentioned the military or something like that, I'd switch off and walk away. Didn't want to know. And I'm still a little bit like that now. But since this year, I've started a new project. I've been talking about my career and my story, my mental health, and my fight and struggle and all that carry on. It's actually helping me. It's helping me talking about it. But more importantly, there could be someone sat in a dark room right now who hasn't left the house for 2 weeks, and they're scrolling the phone. They come across LADBible. They listen to this. They listen to me and you, and they go, "I've been through that. I've seen this, or that's worse for me, or that's not as worse for me." And if they stand up and they walk out the front door and they give it a go, then we save one. Then it's worth it. So that's why I talk about my story now. And
well, I wouldn't have known your story if I hadn't have listened to it here, would I? I've learned a lot from you, and I hope our little talk today has helped in that way.
I think it will. Not just the younger generation. I think the eldest as well. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, son.
Thank you.
Which a good video. Oh, and they have more of these videos? Oh man. More Old Soldier Meets Young Soldier? Oh, might have to watch it, because I really like this video. Oh man, I might have to look into these. Let me know if you guys want to see more of Old Soldier Meets Young Soldier. I would like to watch more of them. I'm probably going to watch more of them even if you guys say you don't like them. Wow. Yeah. Just... yeah, these kind of, I really like hearing from people's experience is, I think, one of the best ways to learn history. I had a teacher back when I was in high school years ago. She had lived through, trying to remember how old she was. I was in her I was in her class during her last year of teaching when she was retiring. And she had lived, as many parents of my generation lived through the Cold War. She had lived through it a little bit longer than my parents had. But, she still lived as an adult through, I think, mid-late 70s up until the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 90s. And so when we finally got to the section, the last month or so of class, in which now we were past World War II and now talking about the Cold War, it was interesting to hear about her perspective on the events that were happening during that time period. As, well, an American woman becoming an adult and living through the Cold War was very, interesting to hear about those personal details that she would add in to the lectures that she gave us. And I think that really helped stick with me and helped me get a better appreciation and understanding of the events that she was teaching. I think adding in personal details can really help strengthen maybe people who aren't as interested in history or whatever. They're strengthen their understanding and respect of that time period and whatnot. But that's going to be the end of the video today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.